Welcome back, 365 Sports. Michael Kelly, the Director of Athletics at USF, joins us now. And Michael, thank you so much. This is, and every time we have an AD on the show, we ask them right off the bat of this era of college athletics and how tumultuous it is and has been. In spite of all of that, though, USF has really kind of made big strides in putting your name on the map larger than it was. How difficult has it been to keep making steps forward even amid the chaos of everything that goes on?
Well, it is certainly a tumultuous time where basically the goalpost seems to move literally every day, and so that makes it challenging, but also one of opportunity. That's the way we look at it here. And I say the biggest reason why we've been able to be so bold and so aggressive is because of great alignment here at the university. We've got some trustee members that are uber focused on success for not only the university as we just achieved AAU status and everything else, which we're very, very proud of, but also gearing to the fact that being great in athletics and academics are not mutually exclusive. We can do both, and really gearing a lot of attention. So our board members, our president, and then obviously the support and requests from myself have all been granted. So we also think we've combined that with some great coaches from top to bottom as it relates to our sports, but certainly with Alex Golich on football, Amir Abdurrahim on basketball, that really are, I think, great young, adjustable coaches that are real authentic relationships with players and have been really adaptive to help inform me and the rest of our staff on what we need to do to be successful. Couple that with being aggressive. Hey, we realize we've only been playing football for 26 years, so to kind of grow within our own skin to be able to do what we're doing, and then also be building a new operations building in a stadium on campus is all very, very great for us to kind of have leverage moving forward for the new frontier.
Is it a hard time to be patient?
It is. It took a while. I've been here in this role for 6 years now. I had an opportunity when I was here earlier in my career to be here with Leroy Selman, who was one of our early ADs when we were starting the football program. So for me to come back and kind of complete and further a vision that he and many others had then is inspiring, but it's also one that I find to be a labor of love. And when I combine, again, an AAU school, 11th largest market in Tampa Bay, and then just an aligned university with some great coaches and great players that are focused on, hey, we're working very hard to what I like to say, being a model athletic department for modern times. It's a totally different ballgame, totally different from what many of us grew up in. You either have to adjust or you're going to perish.
I'm looking at the renderings of the stadium again. I looked at them earlier. I'll try to get a picture to Garrett so people watching online can see it. The renderings look so cool. And Michael, I used to live in Tampa in the early 2000s. I grew up in Fort Myers. And what USF has done in those 26 years is amazing, especially like looking at, I know exactly where this is going to be. It is really going to pop on your campus. It looks amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, based on when you lived here, that lines up well when I was here previously, so you can totally relate. I mean, we were largely a commuter school back then and just kind of hitting the map. And now to see the evolution of a AAU research institution, an athletic department that's, again, grown over those 26 years since we added football, seeing the success we had with Amir Abdurrahim winning the AAC in basketball last year. So a lot of things kind of coming together. But as you can relate, not only does two things. It's historically significant where we're putting it, because when I was here before and was starting, and I go see Jim Levitt and the first players out there, I mean, that's where the first drips of blood, sweat, and tears were there for USF football. It's going to be our forever home. And then we're not coming away from a facility that's dilapidated or anything else. It's something that's already been very nice. Our fans have been somewhat used to great, amenities. So we're still going to have to build a very nice facility that has all the mixture and mix of premium seating and everything else, and a very unique student section that we're building, by them and for them. So we're coming from a great home to go into one that's really by USF, for USF. It'll be branded the right way for us. It'll be sized the right way for us. And it'll be a really, really special environment. And that all pours into an athletic district that I continue to propose, I think, will be one of the finest in college athletics. And the reason I say that, it'll be all very modern, all very structured to be very efficient. But I love the way from my desk I can hit everything from our football stadium to our arena to our baseball and softball complex all within about 300 yards, and a lot of facilities because we're young. That's the only reason we have that benefit. We have the real estate, we have everything nice and compact. So when I look 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, man, our athletes are going to have the ability to train, very efficiently and still be able to meet everything they need to have their livelihood enhanced with their future.
I know there's actually hard work that has to go into making all those things possible, like fundraising and things like that, but it also sounds just cool on the surface of almost like create a program or something that because you're so young and there's still so much that hasn't been done that just seems so exciting to be a part of kind of that, not so much the ground floor, but like the second floor of just building this almost from scratch in some ways.
Yeah, I love that. It's really insightful of you. When I was in graduate school, St. Thomas University back in 1993, we obviously hadn't started football here at USF at that point. I had never even been to Tampa then. I wrote a paper in grad school about how the University of South Florida should start a football program. That kind of came up. I had nothing to do with that being founded, but by the time I got here, it was already started, and that was really cool. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but I just get excited about, and I had a chance in my career. I was the football associate commissioner at the ACC. I was the COO of the CFB. So I've had a good chance and a great opportunity to see really all 130 FBS programs as they built. And, so we kind of know the ins and outs of what to do. And not that we can do it all at once. We had to grow. We still have to grow. But I think we're growing really smartly and in a way that it is very exciting. So that's what we think kind of our brand is. Be bold, kind of be the ones to set the standard, be the first to kind of find your way into the new, 12-team CFP, win conference championships, do it in a place that's going to be, very, very special in a very unique market. And I kind of look at it, obviously you guys out there near Baylor and everything else. I remember when I was at CFP then, shortly after the new stadium was built, think about how the old stadium was, now how great the new stadium is, how they've had such great success most years to get into all these, win Big 12 championships and everything else. So it's, people can relate there. Baylor might be a lot older, but I think you've seen a similar thing when you've invested into athletic districts, when you've seen a very concise athletic footprint where it's kind of all on one side of that campus. I can see the comparison.
Absolutely, and it can take off when there's the right momentum, and I certainly feel that from your fan base. I mean, I don't know in terms of size how they compare, but I mean they're awfully loud on social media. It seems like you've got a very loud, and I'm sure at times that can be pressing, but also that's important that you've got fans that are passionate and that care, and when they see things that are happening around college sports, like they seem bound and determined to do what they can to try and make sure that USF is going where it needs to go.
Yeah, they really do. And again, as a young school, you're right. When we were 1-11 a couple years ago, they were pretty loud then too. But to now get to a great stage and go on and win a bowl game 45-0 last year, but hey, we've got 400,000 alums, and that's only going to get bigger as time goes by. And in a great market, so a great many of them live within about a 5-hour drive of this place. So the future is very, very bright. We just, as you started the call with, there's so many things changing. Do I wish we had some of these things in place 5-10 years ago? Sure, but the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next place time is today, and it is what it is. And we're very proud of what we're doing. And we're just trying to adapt and grow as best we can for what we think is going to be a bright future.
Having worked with the CFP, and now it's different. You were right in the mix in the 14 playoff. Now as we move to the 12-team playoff, there's going to be a one group of 5 school in it, at least. I mean, who knows what the future holds, but it's going to be harder for all the group of 5. How do you feel about the talks of a group of 5 that's the tournament that's like the NIL of college football, and
NIT,
the NIT of college football, and how do you feel about your future, trying to make sure that you are still involved when the next reshuffling happens, whenever that may be?
Yeah, that's why we keep investing with veracity as to what we're doing. We know, things could change tomorrow. Things could more likely change in 28, 29 when a lot of these television contracts come up. You got to be prepared, whether it's tomorrow or in 3 or 4 years. So we're just going to keep investing and getting better, creating everything that we've talked about on this call. We've worked very hard here in the American, and as have other conferences, to make sure we have access into the CFP. Obviously, there's some contracts that revolve around that. We're excited about that. Over the first 10 years of this arrangement, the American champion would have been in that slot 7 out of the first 10 years. So it's our focus to, hey, how do we keep scheduling the way we've been scheduling? We've got, as you know, we had a home game against Alabama last year. We go to Alabama this year. We got Miami at home this year. We got the AAC schedule. So we're scheduling for success, and for your appropriate strength of schedule that the committee has said they look to. And, but as it relates to the future, we want to, first and foremost for us, we always want to keep focused on that CFP slot and keeping that access as long as possible. I have not been involved with any conversations about any sort of G5 type of thing, because quite frankly, we're looking to invest, as is most members of our conference, say, hey, look, bottom line is this thing called Autonomy 5 or Autonomy 4 now in the NCAA, that's never defined anywhere in the governance structure. It just kind of happened, right? So I've said loudly, tell us what the rules of engagement are. Is there a certain level of investment? Is there a certain level of how many sports you have? Whatever it is, because throughout at least the 6 years I've been here, anytime the rules have changed, USF, for instance, and I'm sure other schools have too, we have met or exceeded those opportunities. Hey, we're one of the few teams, if not the only one in the American, that do full Alston money for everybody. We've done the cost of attendance. We are P4 in everything but the label that our conference currently is. So we're looking to knock down those labels. We want to be able to compete at whatever the right side of the fault line happens to be in D1. And as it relates to that playoff, who knows? I mean, we have to all look. We're focused on the current CFP structure. If there happens to be the way the bowls might be affected in the future, once the CFP grows to a certain point, I'd be more open-minded to, hey, either keeping the bowl structure alive so there's still other opportunities for the 12 or 16 teams of the 130 that don't make the CFP. But if there's maybe if you're going to talk NIT, don't limit it to anything that might be the so-called G5. It's like, well, there's going to be a hell of a lot of teams that are in what's currently called a P4 that aren't in postseason either that you would think they'd want to do it. So if it's going to be an NIT, then make it an NIT, but not one with just certain schools in it. It has to be kind of open to everybody.
It is funny you mentioned, how all of a sudden there was the Autonomy 5 just kind of out of nowhere, because it is, like you said, it's not written anywhere, but it was just like, hey, we're in this club. Oh, we'd like to be in it. No. Like that, does that kind of how it feels? Because it's not like a lot of these clubs are based on deals that people made 100 years ago and not something that happened now. Like, USF, I remember when I was in high school, wasn't a very big college necessarily, but then, 10 years later, I mean, after I had moved away and like somebody said, yeah, I'm going back to grad school there. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, it's nuts here now. And I was like, are you kidding? Really? I used to be able to just walk into the gym and go whenever I wanted. And he's like, no, not anymore. It's grown really fast. Do you feel the struggle of dealing with it now as opposed to something that happened during the Woodrow Wilson era?
Well, like I said, what I really look toward is, hey, I'm looking at this as the leader of this athletic department. I think many share it with me. It's like, this is a time of opportunity. I rightfully hear commissioners and the president of the NCAA and everybody else saying, hey, this is college sports is evolving. Cool. We're with it. Tell us what the new world's going to look like, and let people hit a threshold on how to meet that. If they can't make it, so be it. If they can. But make it be metric-based, focused on what you provide to student athletes, what you provide from a fan base, what you provide from a market size. I mean, we are an AAU institution in the 11th largest market in the country with 400,000 alumni, and we invest in our athletes amongst the highest in our conference, and I dare say higher than a good number of P4 schools. So how do you let us out if we're already investing more than some? And as you said, just because, and I say this respectfully as a former executive at the ACC, it's like, just because of something that happened at Sedgefield Country Club in 1956 or whatever, the same year we were born, that doesn't make any sense. And I say that respectfully as not to get any of those folks out. They're all investing at a high level too. But hey, if it's going to evolve and change, great. But what's the new rules? And if people meet those new rules or meet those new objectives that are all surrounding student athlete benefits, then hey, let's just make sure there's enough room for those that invest at that level.
Yeah, the country club access is very bizarre in college athletics for sure. As somebody who was involved with the playoff for several years, did you anticipate that 4 was never going to be like the stop that it going to 8, 12, and perhaps future changes as well, like that was inevitable at some point sooner rather than later?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I certainly knew. I didn't know when or specifically how much, but growth has been an inevitable thing. I think we knew, even looking back to the BCS model when there was just 2 that outgrew its thing. But remember, before the BCS, there was 60 some odd years with the regular bowl system where number 1 and number 2 had only played like 8 times. So it was really hard. It's hard to explain a national champion without kind of coming to some sort of semblance, but with the playing each other. But so the tradition that withheld itself to the BCS days, and then now you got the CFP, and you're right. Now you've got And I think it was a huge improvement. I think it's one of the greatest startup companies in this century so far that the CFP has become. That logo was created, unlike anything. People don't know the logo itself is kind of plain, right? Just like the Nike swoosh is, but what does it stand for ultimately? And now it's kind of this, standard of excellence that teams have been able to touch. So people want that. It's been widely popular. So now you got to expand it. And so I'm excited it's up to 12 now. I'm delighted that there is at least some access that's direct for us, because Coach Golish can now go into a locker room and say, gentlemen, if we win the American, we have a legitimate chance to get there. Whereas before, with Cincinnati being the only one that really fully cracked the ceiling on that for us when they were in the American, that wasn't, it was technically possible, but it's really, really hard. Now it's a much more reasonable pathway, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, Cincinnati didn't control any of the things outside of them, but they had to hope for things to fall a certain way, and they had to rely on luck more than anybody else did. So now that factor is out of it, which has to be a bit of relief.
Yeah, and there's still work to be done if we're fortunate enough to do well in our conference, and we hope we know our strength of schedule will stack up. But then you start worrying about champions of the other leagues as well, and how does that stack up? And that's okay. That's what part of the debate is. But I hope to answer your original question, that I'm glad it has expanded to this level. I think it's important. I think those bigger leagues that exist, of course, I firmly believe that they deserve more than 0 or 1 teams as well. They're too good. They resource too well. Their fans are there, and those kids deserve a chance to play for a national championship. So everything just has to evolve, and I hope it continues to expand, quite frankly. And heck, to some level, it's even exciting, even if you had all 9 FBS conferences have a champion, have a chance to get in there if it was big enough.
Yeah.
Because that, just imagine how that kind of helps the whole college football regular season. The interest in it. Even if you got an Akron and Western Michigan game going on down in November, that could really mean something to the whole nation, not just to the good folks in the MAC. So, anyways, I think there's a lot of cool things that could really be more helpful to college football as a whole. Do I think it'll ever get there? Probably not. But I think as you continue to expand opportunities, and let's look at it to what's healthy for college football, in addition to still taking care of the mega conferences that are, truly investing mega money into it that deserve. I mean, I'm certainly not one to say they shouldn't. I think they should have it too. They're investing, and they're the leaders of this thing. But let's continue to make sure there's access and opportunity for all the kids that are playing football.
Totally agree with you there. How do you feel about the way that the American, which has been so affected the last couple of years with all of the realignment, how do you feel like the conference has ridden this wave and found itself on the other side for at least right now?
I think very, very well. I mean, we were fortunate to have a great leader in Mike Oresco that always fought for the league, made sure I think they stood out as kind of the premier league of the so-called G5. That's proven itself with the stat I said before, with 7 of the 10 times that champion would have been in the CFP. Now I think we got a leader in Tim Pernetti that's also one that's he's been a major business executive with IMG. He's been an AD. He was a player in college, so he understands the full picture, and I think will continue to advocate and represent us well in those rooms to make sure we have access as it relates to CFP, and also just continued growth of the sport of college football.
So in terms of excitement on a more direct level with your football program, what Alex Golish was able to do last year in his first season, win 7 games, win a bowl game. I think the previous 4 seasons combined, you guys had won 8 games total. So just how refreshing was that? How rejuvenating was that? And also there's more to come, obviously. You've got to build on that. It doesn't stop there. But what kind of a good kick in the pants was last season as far as how it ended and how it went?
It was huge for all of us here at USF. Obviously, it had been a couple of tough years in a row, and kind of simultaneous with good investments to build an indoor practice facility. Obviously, investing in recruiting Alex to come, putting a lot of emphasis in his staff, putting a lot of emphasis in our players in terms of the nutrition and recruiting talent that they need and everything else. To see him validated in his first year was really, really nice to see as a major step forward. Like you said, a winning record, a 45-0 win over an ACC school, just a major, great competitive contest against Alabama in front of 5 million people on our home field.
Man,
that was a lot of cool things. So we're really proud. I mean, Alex is an incredible. His work ethic is unmatched. He relates extremely well to his players. He's obviously very, very skilled on and inventive and creative from the offensive side of things. He's put together what I think is a wonderful staff. So we're excited about the future with Alex. Done a great job. We've got, our talent has increased tremendously. We've got a great young quarterback in Byron Brown that I think will continue to set records like he did last year. And so we're very excited about the brand of football we play, the hard-nosed style that we play. And again, I think Alex is his work ethic is just unmatched.
How long did it take you to come down from the stress of that Alabama game?
Well, it was just a great contest. Obviously, when you get a chance to have them come to your place and to play, have a packed house and their fans are there in multitude, brings pride to the Tampa Bay area having them here. It was just a great contest, especially coming off of years where we really hadn't had much success. So there's a lot of fear there, and to have a very competitive game. It was 10-3 until, they punched it in there with a minute left, and, even 17-3 is certainly not bad. We held them to less points than anyone else did all season long. So it was good to see. So that was a real shot in the arm. I think it gave our kids, man, if you really put your mind to it, you can compete, and gave them a lot of confidence, at least allowed us to get better. And so those steps need to continue. We need to keep getting bigger, faster, stronger, and adding some depth. But we certainly seem to be trending in the right direction, and we're proud of Coach Golis.
But before we let you go, I want to ask you, and Garrett, go ahead and put up the renderings of the facility so people can see it, which is just really, it's going to be so cool. I can't wait to make a trip down to Tampa and see it when it's done, Michael. But you mentioned working under Leroy Selman, who in the Tampa area is as beloved a figure of, maybe the most beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneer and Tampa athlete of all time. There's a highway named after him, an interstate, for crying out loud. And he means so much to USF, to the Bucks. Heck, of course, he's an Oklahoma legend as well. What was it like working with him and, a guy who helped launch the football program in the athletic department there?
Leroy is simply an amazing person. Everything you just said is true. That freeway is named after him because of the kind of person he was, not really for what the kind of football player he was. But it all comes together with being where you're supposed to be. And that gentleman was the very first draft pick in Tampa Bay Buccaneer history. They could have picked anybody. They picked Leroy Selman through a couple of rough years, but some great years with the Bucks. He had a Hall of Fame career. Then goes on. You're right. I think many people probably could go back to Oklahoma, do something else. He found a love for this area. He put a lot of his sweat equity going forward into USF, getting the program started, eventually raising up to AD. And as I mentioned, when he got hired, I was his first hire as AD. We got a chance to work together, and he's just amazing. He had a special gift to make everybody, whether it was someone he worked with or someone he met for the first time, just feel like you're just the most important person. And he meant it. He was so genuine. And so the way we look at it with our players and our staff now, those that weren't privileged enough to get to meet him, but those that were, we keep his legacy alive in two ways. Number one, making sure they understand that you can be an amazing competitor and one of the best in your craft, competitively speaking, and still be an extremely great student, teammate, and gentleman off the field. That's what we want our Bulls to be, number one. And then the second thing is he and his wife, Claybra, started what we still have. It's called the Selman Mentoring Institute. And it's a very unique feature that becomes a required class for all of our student athletes, matches them up with a businessman or woman here in Tampa for whatever they want to do after sports, because he knew student athlete time is so valuable and so limited. They needed that kind of extra boost, and he kind of started that when he was AD, and we continued that legacy now. So Leroy was the best, and we're honored to have our athletic center named in his honor, and to have that mentoring institute bear his name as well.
Michael, thank you so much. Great to meet you telephonically. I hope to get down there and see a game when you guys build a new stadium here. What's the target date?
We will open that stadium in September of 2027. So we've got 3 more seasons at Raymond James Stadium. We break ground on it on October 18th of this year. So we'll start building up. You'll start seeing it come up if you come down before that. But come see us at Raymond James sometime before that. We got obviously Miami there in late September. We got a big game against Memphis on a Friday night. So a lot of cool games here at Raymond James leading into the new stadium in September 27th.
I'll probably build my whole Friday night around watching that, at least at home. That's going to be a good one. Again, thanks a lot. Hope to have you on again sometime.
Thank you so much. Go Bulls.
Yeah. There you go. USF Athletic Director Michael Kelly.